multiple tornadoes.
Looks like it's going to come ashore here in the next couple hours, maybe an hour and a half from now. It'll start really deteriorating. Now, up in Port Charlotte, there's a sound right up in there, a harbor. It's actually called Charlotte Harbor. That may get helped a little bit by the fact that the opening is more from this side, so the winds are kind of pushing that way. That may help a little bit there. But the point is, looks like it's going to be north of Naples for the worst of it, although they'll probably get very high water in the Naples area. All this area over here is much more prone to storm surge flooding than we are here on the southeast coast. Now let's go to a little wider view where we can see the direction that the hurricane has moved. See it moving north, 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 and then about 11 o'clock this morning, it took this turn to the right, and so there it was at 2. Now here it is at 3, so it's gone back left a little bit, so it kind of went extremely right and now back to the left just a little bit, but it does seem that it is going to come ashore south of Tampa Bay here, and the worst part of this is going to be Fort Myers, Port Charlotte, somewhere in that area. If you have friends in that area and they have not taken action, they need to do it this very, very, very second. Get on the telephone, tell them, get away from the water right now. If you're in Fort Myers, you just tell them you don't care what it takes. They need to get away from the water. If they need to crawl up a hill, that's what they've got to do, because this is an extreme life-threatening situation going on over there right now. All right, here is the advisory just in as of 2 o'clock, 26.0, 82.4, 125 mile-an-hour winds. That's Category 4, moving north-northeast at 20, now 55 miles from Fort Myers. Remember, that's the center of the eye. Even though it's got a very small eye on it, that's the center. And going back to the radar picture, okay, that's the center right in there. Let me stop that radar right there on the latest picture.
A Fort Myers. También están viendo las descargas eléctricas en esta secuencia. Ven ahí cuando se pone blanco, están viendo las descargas eléctricas en partes de la zona central de la Florida, que empieza a sentir algunas de las bandas en el exterior del sistema, pero el ojo del ciclón claramente lo ven ahí acercándose a Fort Myers esta tarde. Vamos a utilizar entonces nuestra tecnología del radar Doppler 51, primero y preciso, que les presenta el ojo de este intensísimo ciclón. Es un ojo más pequeño. Anoche era de 15 millas de diámetro. En estos momentos es un ojo de solamente 8 millas de diámetro, y eso ha significado que se ha ido intensificando. Aquí está el área de Naples, aquí está Fort Myers, Port Charlotte más hacia el norte. Hay que recalcar que esta región del suroeste de la Florida es sumamente inundable. O sea, aquí cuando entra un ciclón, el nivel del mar sube más de 10 pies por encima del nivel normal. O sea que esto va a inundar a gran parte de la comunidad costera, y hay, como ven, varias bahías, varias zonas por donde se puede meter el agua e inundar esa región. Anoche precisamente me llamó alguien del área de Cape Coral, preocupados la posibilidad de que el ciclón pudiera dirigirse en esa dirección. En ese momento parecía que iba hacia Tampa, pero la sugerencia de parte del Departamento del Tiempo de Telemundo 51 fue que desalojaran, porque existía la posibilidad de que entrara no a Tampa, pero a esta región. Y en estos momentos, mirando el movimiento aquí en pantalla, lo van a ver nuevamente, ven que de verdad parece que no va para Tampa, sino más bien a la región de Fort Myers, si acaso hasta Port Charlotte, leve posibilidad de que se tire más arriba hasta la región, digamos, de Sarasota. 145 millas, huracán de categoría 4 con tornados cerca de la pared del ojo, o sea, el anillo de destrucción asociado con este ciclón. Si recuerdan a Andrew cuando llegó al sur de la Florida tenía también vientos sostenidos de 145 millas por hora, así que se podrán imaginar qué tipo de emergencia se va a estar viviendo las próximas horas ahí en el área desde Fort Myers hasta Port Charlotte con ese tipo de viento. Me voy a salir de la pantalla un momento, voy a ampliar la imagen aquí en el radar Doppler 51, primero y preciso, para que puedan ver una imagen un poco más ampliada, para que examinen lo que está ocurriendo aquí en el área de Miami y Fort Lauderdale, donde actualmente estamos bastante libres de precipitaciones. No hay precipitaciones en esta área. Ahora, claro, sí existe el potencial de que esta banda, por ejemplo, que está localizada sobre el área de Los Cayos, pueda moverse hacia nosotros más tarde. Vamos precisamente a hacer un acercamiento del área un poco más al sur para que vean las precipitaciones en el área de Cayo Hueso, donde más temprano en el día de hoy los aguaceros y tormentas eléctricas fueron bastante fuertes. La precipitación en esa región por el momento ha cesado. Nos movemos un poco más al norte ahora utilizando nuestro radar en vivo, y pueden ver precisamente el área de Naples. donde actualmente hay fuertes bandas de precipitación y repito, aquí está el ojo, el anillo de destrucción asociado con el ciclón. Un poquito más hacia el norte podrán apreciar la precipitación acercándose al área de Fort Myers. Así que esta emergencia, amigos, para la zona del suroeste de la Florida, desafortunadamente es una seria, una donde pudiera haber serios destrozos asociados con un catastrófico ciclón, posiblemente el más fuerte en azotar a los Estados Unidos en muchos, muchos años. Continuamente, aquí en Telemundo 51, en el día de hoy vamos a estar interrumpiendo programación, manteniéndolos actualizados del progreso de este sistema en relación a la costa oeste de la Florida, pero también en relación a nosotros, porque todavía aquí existe actualmente una vigilancia de tornado, una vigilancia de inundaciones, una vigilancia para la posibilidad de vientos fuertes durante el resto del día si una de estas bandas que ven aquí llega a tocar el área metropolitana de Miami y Fort Lauderdale.
On it, if you would, please. The center of the storm of Charley is right there, and the winds have been estimated to be now 145 miles per hour. This is a significant, drastic, and sudden change in the speed of the winds as well as the direction. The anticipated movement of the storm was going to be farther to the north. It looks like the storm is veering now much farther to the northeast than anticipated, and this puts Sanibel in the Fort Myers, Punta Gorda area under the gun. Let me put the radar in motion for you. Again, you can see the eye of the storm located right about there. And if we draw a line down to the south, we can see that the storm has moved a little bit more to the northeast in the last couple of hours. So the anticipated motion, of course, would take these high velocity winds right there near the center, and they would move them onshore near Punta Gorda and Fort Myers, and that would happen within the hour because these winds definitely are increasing and moving faster than anticipated. Now, let me zoom in a little bit on the radar here, and we'll get a close-up look again. If there it goes. Now we can see the outer eye wall of the storm right about here. It's already moving on to Sanibel and Cape Coral. These are very strong thunderstorms up there. And here's the eye of the storm right there, that red section coming from the bottom. Let me go down just a little bit more. There you can see the strongest storms with the eye wall appears to be heading right up Charlotte Harbor over Sanibel and Cape Coral right now. So a hurricane warning obviously has been posted for that area all day. In fact, last night and yesterday. But the anticipation, of course, was that the storm would go a little bit farther to the north based upon official tracks and forecast models. Sometimes nature just doesn't behave in that way. So this is a Category 4 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale. If we can go back to the other graphic here, I want to again show you the major changes for us from Cocoa Beach down to Ocean Reef, and as a matter of fact, down through the 7 Mile Bridge right now. This is all under a tropical storm warning. What that means is we can expect winds here perhaps to tropical storm strength. Let's go out a little bit farther on the radar now. Let's go back to the other graphic, and we'll look at Miami-Dade and Broward counties, and we'll tell you why that has changed. Obviously, with the storm a little bit farther in this direction, you've got the envelope of high velocity winds and tropical storm force winds farther to the west. But I think you can see what's happening here as the storm moves a little bit more in that direction and is forecast to track across the state like that. What you get are these feeder bands that are now moving a little bit more to the northeast than they were before. So as the storm tracks in that direction, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to move these feeder bands up over Miami-Dade, Broward County. So the weather here is about to deteriorate here within the next couple of hours, and it could get rather stormy here. Hurricane force winds, no. Tropical storm force winds look to be a little more likely, along with heavy rain. And unfortunately, this is going to happen right at rush hour here, or shortly after here in South Florida. And another thing to talk about is Lake Okeechobee up here. If you've got a wind circulating around the storm in this direction, what you now have is a considerable stronger force of wind and energy driving the water from Lake Okeechobee south shore to the Lake Okeechobee north shore. So there will be some flooding anticipated there. That's why the hurricane warning has been issued for Lake Okeechobee. Along the east coast, I don't think too much will happen besides just some minor beach erosion. But the good thing is, if there is a good thing about the situation, is the storm is moving very fast and it will not be a long-lived event. But again, very bad news for the Fort Myers and Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, Sarasota area, it appears as if the storm is about ready to make landfall in your vicinity. I'm Danielle standing by here at Local 10. We'll have more updates. And by the way, I believe we are going to be on with a special Local 10 news beginning at 4 o'clock. But before that,
this is Charlotte Harbor right there. So if that water gets driven up in there, vast areas of the area around Port Charlotte are going to be underwater. So there is a major concern for what's going to happen there. But before it gets there, it's got to go here over Sanibel Island, Captiva Island. Now also, along this area here, from about Bonita Springs on up, the Estero area right there, and on up, of course, that's going to get water piling in there. That means it's going to go up this river. That's the Caloosahatchee River up to Fort Myers. Cape Coral is right in this area here. So all that low-lying area is going to be prone to flooding. How high might the water be, you ask? The estimates from the computer programs are 10 to 15 feet of water. That's the above normal tide. Waves on top of that, maybe 10 feet. So you could have 20 to 25 feet of water piling up in this area here from Bonita Springs on up to Port Charlotte in parts of that, depending on the topography, depending on exactly what is going on in the local area and how directly the winds push the water up into the certain body of water they're talking about. So this is undoubtedly going to be a major disaster for that part of Florida. Going back to 6 hours ago and watching us move forward here, watch it go up the line and then it veered to the right about 11 o'clock. And now it's turned a little bit back to the left. You see at the end there? So before 3 o'clock, it looks like the worst of this is going to come ashore there. Now,
because as those things blow down, they blow around, they blow through windows. If you're outside, you're in a dangerous situation. We're hoping our crews right now that are giving us this
increased in the last 4 or 5 hours or so since this went from Category 2 to 3 to 4. What is the mood right now? I'm sure they're very anxious and hopeful that everything turns out okay.
They certainly are. They are meeting just about every hour. They plan on giving us updates every hour. I would say that there's quite a buzz here. We're in a hallway, so we see a lot of people rushing along the hallway trying to get into the Situation Room. They tell me, though, they are anxious, but they are not nervous about what needs to be done. The majority of people who are in the room behind me have been through hurricanes before. They know what they're doing. They've practiced this many, many times, so it isn't new to them, I should say. So we feel that we're in good hands, but again, as the storm approaches, all of us are getting nervous.
Right, so they are well rehearsed. And
Absolutely.
we need to listen to their warnings and listen to what they say. Thank you so much, Candace, for that report. We want to go now on the phone to Melissa Keeney, who we've evacuated from Fort Myers Beach, who is now at Health Park on Summerlin. And Melissa, tell us about the drive off the beach, first of all, when you evacuated, and then also what's happening there at Health Park right now.
Yeah, Lois, as you can imagine, you know, we were on Fort Myers Beach for about 14, 15 hours, and it just got to a point that none of us felt safe out there. It came upon us very, very quickly. We were feeling about 40 to 45.
As those bands come around, those feeder bands from the storm, what about traffic on your way back from the beach? Was it? Did you see very many people out on the road?
If you would believe it, not a single soul the entire way here, which is a few miles. I know you know, Jim. So not a single.
Okay.
The position at 2 o'clock to where it is now, it's gone almost north as opposed to continuing on the path closer on into Fort Myers. The box indicating a tornado watch because of the possibility of tornadoes in these bands here, and we can watch the sequence here. Watch it. Here comes the hurricane, and also see these winds out here? These winds are pushing like this from the southwest to the northeast. and that's what's beginning to have effect on the hurricane and is going to push it, looks like, across the state, something like that. And so that's going to, the situation in Orlando may not be good. They have hurricane warnings here on the east coast of the state, and this could also, by the way, be a hurricane for the Carolinas to our north, and could be a serious problem in the northeast. But of course, that's downstream. We'll just wait and have to see what happens minute by minute here this afternoon, and we'll continue to watch. All right, Rob in the studio.
All right, thank you, Brian. We have a unique opportunity here to talk to someone who's been staring this hurricane right in the face for the last couple hours. His name is Bill Kirkland, and he's on Sanibel Island right now. Bill, it's Rob. Can you hear me?
Hey, I hear you.
What do you see outside right now? Are you able to look outside?
Yeah, it's blowing pretty good. The house is, is shaking and rocking a little bit, but, no broken windows or anything. Everything's intact. A lot of trees are down. We've lost the power as far as the TV and everything. We've got a generator, so we've got electricity and everything. There's like 3 families that have stopped in here, and we've got an emergency room doctor and all.
Right there in your house? Or are you in a business right now?
No, I'm in my residence. We just built a new home this past year to the new codes, the new hurricane codes and everything, which I'm happy to see. We had a limb a while ago hit one of the windows, and hey, it withstood the impact. What can I say,
Well, that's great to hear that. You have hurricane windows or shutters?
I've got both hurricane windows and shutters. Some of the windows are hurricane, and the rest of them we have shutters on.
And you've got some families stopping by to seek shelter at your place, and a doctor there, you say?
You might be able to answer a question for us. Where's the eye located at right now?
The eye right now, Bill, is 10 miles west of Sanibel Island. Okay. You are on that side where the concern is the storm surge, and I wanted to ask you this. Are you experiencing flooding yet, or are you seeing any flooding?
No flooding at all in our yard. I mean, our yard's high and dry, so we've got no problem as far as flooding or anything.
How close to the coast are you?
I'm sorry?
How close to the coast are you?
We're probably about a mile from the coast.
All right, so you're kind of inland. It sounds like you've got the hatches battened and you got...
Encima del normal. Noten también que el tiempo ya está despejando en los Cayos, se ha mantenido en parte nublado hoy aquí en la costa sureste de la Florida, todavía nos puede tocar algo de precipitación en las próximas horas. Vamos al radar Doppler 51, primero y preciso, que presenta la localización de este ojo, un ojo muy compacto. El anillo de destrucción de este ciclón es esto que ven aquí. O sea, los vientos de 145 millas por hora se encuentran precisamente en esta localidad. A ver, esta isla que está aquí es Sanibel. Esta que está aquí es Captiva y esta que está más arriba es North Captiva Island. Tal vez algunos de ustedes han vacacionado en alguna vez aquí en la costa suroeste de la Florida, Sanibel, un destino muy popular para las personas que les gusta ir a la playa en esa región. Captiva y North Captiva también. Son zonas donde hay hoteles, o zonas donde hay residencias, casas para rentar, o sea, casas de playa para rentar también. No sé cuánto va a quedar de algunas de esas casas de playa, considerando el viento de 145 millas por hora y, claro, la marejada ciclónica, el alza en el nivel del mar, 10, 15 pies por encima del normal, inundando todo a su paso y encima de eso oleaje de 10 o 15 pies de altura. Rápidamente vamos a ver algunas de las condiciones. Esto es utilizando nuestra red de meteorólogos de barrio. Si podemos poner eso en el aire, les voy a mostrar algunas de las condiciones que se han notado. Esto es en el área de Fort Myers. Ráfagas de hasta 64 millas por hora, 2 pulgadas de lluvia hasta el momento. Y terminamos con una imagen del Viper, si podemos verla rapidito, mientras va entrando el ciclón a la zona costera. Estaré brindándoles información cada media hora aquí en Telemundo 51. Esté conmigo poco pasadito a las 4 de la tarde y los mantendré informados sobre este tristemente peligrosísimo huracán Charley.
Of course, was so critical. Here comes the eye north, coming north, and then watch it turn. Here it comes, turning toward the Fort Myers area, and then it turned back to the left a little bit. So now it's just due west of Fort Myers. There again is the Port Charlotte area, but it looks like Tampa Bay up in here is going to be spared from this this thing here. Here is the latest advisory we have, 145-mile-an-hour winds. I want you to look at that number. 954 millibars. Now, I just said the aircraft since 3 o'clock has reported 943 millibars. That is a tremendous drop in pressure. So this may end up being too low a number for the eventual winds when that eye wall finally comes ashore. So it may be higher than 145, we'll see. When we see that just massive drop in pressure very rapidly, very often that accompanies a rapid intensification of the storm. Quick check back at the satellite loop here again just to confirm the coverage of the hurricane. There it goes, up, 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 and making the turn toward Fort Myers. But the main thing for us I want to look at here are these rain bands, and you can see the bands on the close-up. There's one right there, and that seems to be sort of the outer edge. So it's still well west of us, so the only issue is, as the hurricane comes east, are we going to get some of this part of it down here? And we just don't think it would be very bad, even if we do. Interesting thing is, there was the position at 2 o'clock. There it is up there at 3 o'clock, so you can see that it's kind of made a jog to the right and then a jog to the left. But unfortunately, it looks like Charlotte Harbor, Port Charlotte, is going to be the worst part of this event when it's done. All right, we'll be back on the air.
But now we seem to be swirling quite a bit around us here.
Sean, let me ask you this. I know you've talked to some other people. I know the power's out in a lot of places there, but I know you've talked to some people and there are actually trees down on cars. Tell me a little bit about what you've heard.
I had spoke with one of my friends who lives in an apartment complex, and they've lost a number of trees falling right down on the row of parked cars for the apartment complexes.
Sean, can you tell if the wind is coming in out of the south? Should be coming in right now out of the south and the southwest, and you should be having at least hurricane force winds at this time.
I'm experiencing almost crosswinds here. I can see that the wind is blowing from the east, but then it'll change direction. Now I'm getting strong gusts from the south, and well, actually, it seems to have changed direction dramatically. But prior to this, it was a nice easterly, and it wasn't very. It didn't seem to be very intense. But boy, it's gotten really bad here.
Well, the eye of the hurricane is approximately. I'm going to measure the distance here. The eye wall of the 145-mile-an-hour winds is approximately 15 miles, almost due west of where you are. You say you're near Fort Myers itself?
Yes, I'm Fort Myers myself. I'm about 2 miles from the Caloosahatchee River, and like I said, I might be, as the crow flies, I might be 15 miles from Captiva.
Can you see the ocean from where you're at, Sean? Do you see the water rising at all at this point in time?
No, I cannot, and nor would I feel comfortable if you wanted me to go look.
Okay, no, we don't want you to step outside right now. The core of the most destructive winds is 145 miles per hour, but that wind swath of the strongest winds only measures approximately 10 miles from the actual center of circulation. So the community that is really under the gun right now, the area that's being hit the hardest, is the community between Captiva Island and Boca Grande.
Sean, stand by for a second, because we just got off the wires that the National Hurricane Center now says Charley is expected to make landfall over the resort town of Boca Grande, if you want to zoom in on that, Roland, on the barrier island of Gasparilla in about 30 minutes.
Okay. So the eastern end of the eye wall is already right along the coastline, and that the community of Boca Grande, I would imagine, is going to have some very, very substantial damage, as well as the community of the resort of Captiva, because this area right here has counterclockwise winds, and so a 10 to 15-foot storm surge right now is probably being pushed onshore between Sanibel and Captiva Island, just north of Captiva Island, easily a 10 to 15-foot storm surge. Right now, Boca Grande is probably experiencing strong offshore winds. So if you were actually out there right now, you probably noticed that the ocean is being pulled away from Boca Grande. Let's take a look at our neighborhood WeatherNet site right now. This is latest information we're getting, and these are the peak gusts we're recording right now at Cape Coral City Centrum, I believe.
Yes.
In Cape Coral, that's 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts. In Naples, we've had 78-mile-per-hour wind gusts. At Gullwing Beach Resort in Fort Myers, 64-mile-per-hour wind gusts there as well. And also, this is our time-lapse video we've been watching here for the last few hours. You can see people still hanging out along the coastline. There's some of the, oh, that's interesting, because there we're actually starting to see the ocean rise a little bit as that wind is now gusting. Oh, not too bad there at Naples at 10 miles per hour, but they had a gust of 78 miles per hour earlier.
Sean, you still on the line there?
Yes, I am.
You lived on Sanibel Island for years, and you were there when Donna came through, correct?
I was, and even the no-name storm that hit South Tampa area.
Seen anything like this before?
Not this degree of wind. And if Roland is correct in that it's bringing water into Sanibel, when the eye of the no-name storm hit south of Tampa, it flooded a good portion of the island remember, the island may have, at its highest point, be less, well, maybe almost 8 feet.
And everybody knows Sanibel Island and Captiva Island, Fort Myers Beach have beautiful resorts right there on the beach. Based on what you're seeing, and you're an old timer there, even though you're relatively young, what do you think it's going to look like once this thing passes over, Charlie?
Well, I've been here for 25 years. I don't know if that qualifies me as an old timer. It may, in Florida. But I think...
Now, you're watching the evolution of Hurricane Charley as it came off the coastline of northern Cuba, went right over Havana. The eye skirted just about 70 miles to the west of Key West, and then all of a sudden the Hurricane Center started noticing this jog toward the northeast. Then the hurricane started moving a little bit more toward the north, and now it appears to be moving toward the northeast and making landfall once again. The outer rain bands going as far north as Orlando. Not much happening here across Miami-Dade and Broward County. But this is the concern that I have. This is where the core of the hurricane force winds are. This is the radius of tropical storm force winds. And as the hurricane continues to come on shore, on the southern side of the hurricane is where you have the heaviest storm surge. This is where the water is being piled up. It's being pushed into Charlotte Harbor. On the north side across Tampa, residents there are going to be experiencing the offshore wind. So it is down here.
Cape Coral, Sanibel Island, Fort Myers Beach, a number of bridges that go over. Most of the people in that area have been evacuated. They started evacuations at 7 a.m. yesterday, so the roads are clear. We're already being told that power lines are down, a number of trees have fallen on cars, so it's a serious situation there.
I'm going to outline Port Charlotte, Charlotte Harbor, because it is a little bit difficult to see. There's an inlet right here by Boca Grande,
exactly.
And that water is going to be pushed up and inside of this harbor, and when that happens and that rain and that wind persists the way it does, that has a tendency of elevating the water level there, and that's the storm surge we're talking about, anywhere between 10 to 15 feet above sea level. Earlier we thought that the hurricane was perhaps going to start skirting the coastline. It was taking a temporary wobble, all of a sudden started going north, but now it has decided to start trekking off toward the northeast.
Andrew, in 1992. The only problem with this one is the storm surge. Not the only problem. The storm surge just in...
Along the beach there, if you're familiar with that area, it's full of hotels, full of condos, full of places like that. Similar to Cocoa Beach, similar to Daytona Beach. Most everybody was gone. Of course, earlier today they were riding through the streets with a bullhorn, yelling at people to get out. You've been ordered to evacuate. And when we did our live shot at noon, we saw nobody on the beach except one other camera crew. Now, a couple of people have stayed behind just to tend to their buildings, kind of shopkeepers, if you will. But other than that, we saw nobody milling around. Most people got scared, and for good reason.
There you have Don Forbes from WKMG, and he's reporting.
We'll shift back into the west, so they'll have a storm surge from the other direction. A chaotic situation here. Let's get a closer look at this again. We'll be able to see the islands themselves. There's Boca Grande and then Captiva Sanibel to the south. This is Charlotte Harbor, Punta Gorda. It is, the eye looks like it's going to go right over or just west of Punta Gorda over the next, say, 30 minutes or so. And there's Port Charlotte. In this red area, that's where the winds could be gusting to 175 miles per hour or higher. And because of the concentric nature of this eye wall, it looks like this could be a strong 4 or a 5.
The last-minute maneuver causing residents who thought they'd be spared to scramble and move out.
Other residents breathing a sigh of relief. Charley whipping up winds and water in the Keys, but the area dodging any serious danger.
Well, some effects of the storm literally hitting home in South Florida. You're looking live at the damage done in one Pompano Beach neighborhood. It's the big news across the state, and it is where we begin once again tonight. Good evening, everybody. South Florida spared pretty much, but the eye of Charley making landfall a short time ago on the barrier islands off Fort Myers.
Of course, we've got a network of reporters all over the state. 7's Lynn Gordon is along the Gulf Coast. Dave Cartoonan is in the Florida Keys, and Diane Fernandez is back here closer to home.
Sharon Melton pulling in pictures, some dramatic pictures, and Chief Meteorologist Bill Kamal has the latest coordinates.
And we're going to start tonight with 7's Charles Belay, who is in Naples. Charles?
Well, we can tell you that the back end of this storm is definitely whipping Naples. We can tell you that emergency evacuation crews came out here to Naples Beach. I'm going to go ahead and let you see what the situation is over here. All this vegetation right here is gone. This has all been blown away. There was 30 feet of beach here when we got here about 1 o'clock. You can see the water is up to the boardwalk. Not far from where we are is the actual pier. and that is got water all over it. There's a lot of flooding as the storm surge came in below where the eye went in. Let's take into some video that we shot as we came into Naples, and we can tell you that it's a ghost town here. But I'll tell you another thing. A lot of people at the last minute, when this storm made its turn, got very scared, called evacuation numbers, and wanted to know where to go. There are broken trees, down power lines, flooding, and a lot of people who decided to stay home and ride out this storm because they thought it was going to hit Tampa. Well, it didn't hit Tampa. It hit Fort Myers, and right now, the back end of this storm is hitting Naples hard. We had an opportunity to try and find some shelter when we first got here, because it really was much worse earlier in the day than it is right now. When we got inside of a parking garage, and there were a lot of people inside that parking garage because they left their homes at the last minute. As we come back out live, we can show you that this storm hasn't lost any of its punch. We're still getting blown around out here, and the situation, excuse me, I'm sorry, it's hard to see when it's blowing into your eyes. You can see that what the situation is out here. We're talking major swells and lots of high waves, completely crashing it up on here on the beach, right by the boardwalk. If you need to evacuate, the best thing for you to do right now, according to officials, is stay put, because this storm is moving north beyond Fort Myers into the Sanibel area. It has already come ashore, but the back end is still attacking the Naples area, and this is where we're going to be in place throughout the night. If we are able to move north, we are going to do that, because the eye of the storm has come ashore in Port Charlotte. And that's the situation as it stands right now. Chris, go ahead and turn the camera on. I want to show you some of the people who came out here to take a look at this storm. We're videotaping them, they're videotaping us, as this is history being made on the west coast of Florida. The west coast has not sustained a direct hit from a major hurricane since 1921. Donna did go through the Fort Myers area in 1968. I was 3 years old. I don't remember it, but we can tell you that that was a Category 3 hurricane. This is a Category 4 hurricane, and where the eye has gone ashore up north of here, just north of Fort Myers, there is going to be significant damage when we are able actually to get out with the camera and shoot what is left behind. You've already seen what it's done here in Naples, and it's still whipping around. So the situation as it stands right now, if you are in the Naples area, or excuse me, you're seeing this in Miami, but anybody who has relatives who live in the Naples area and you're watching in Miami right now, and if you've gotten any phone calls from your family who are concerned about what to do, officials are saying to stay put. The storm is moving north. We have a couple of squall lines coming through here. These are those feeder bands that we have been talking about for a couple of days now. This is a feeder band that's going through here right now. You know, it's whipping us around. So this is nothing to fool around with. If you have family in Naples, something just fell behind our satellite truck. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I'm being told by my engineer that there's a problem back there. We are going to wrap this up. We're going to check out the situation and try and come back to you. I'm Charles Belay reporting live in Naples 7 News.
All right, Charles, you be careful out there.
Well, you know, this storm, I think, illustrates a point that Chief Meteorologist Bill Kamal makes fairly often, is that these storms can be very tricky and very unpredictable. We had talked about the Tampa Bay area being hit, and now we're seeing it considerably south of there today.
Got to be prepared all the time. Bill Kamal joining us now live with the latest with coordinates and whatnot. Bill, what do you got?
I posed these questions to the National Hurricane Center, and you know, by looking at these year after year, you know that you can have them on Doppler radar. 100 miles offshore, they can do a jog north or south. And I think the models basically underestimated at the last minute the strength of that trough, that big dip in the jet stream, which propelled that storm more to the northeast more quickly than anticipated. And now that short jog to the south, everybody was thinking Tampa Bay, and the people in southwest Florida may have not been as prepared as they would normally have been. And all of a sudden, the people in Tampa Bay breathed a sigh of relief, and the people in southwest Florida around Fort Myers and the barrier islands from Captiva, Sanibel, Boca Grande, now that is the point zero as far as the strike. At 5 o'clock, 26.9, 82.2, winds down to 140. The official wind speed at landfall was 145, but like Hurricane Andrew, perhaps when all is said and done and it's reevaluated, the wind speeds could have been higher right around the center of circulation. Now moving north-northeast at 21, the pressure dropped to 941 millibars. It's actually still dropping as it went into Charlotte Harbor, and that was the point after the islands off Fort Myers that it went into, and now it is moving to the northeast. But we'll take a look at that in just a second. Here's the forecast track up the eastern seaboard. We won't be done with Charley as far as the rains, but the winds will weaken fairly rapidly as it encounters the Florida landmass and then perhaps moves out into the Atlantic and makes another strike on the Carolina coast. So now from Cocoa Beach to Cape Lookout, there are hurricane warnings. That's in anticipation of Charley doing this sort of thing. And again, a double strike, Florida and then the Carolinas and then up the eastern seaboard. We are still under a tropical storm warning here. We have a tornado watch out and we have a flood watch out till tomorrow morning. This is the radar. Here comes Charley up from the south and from the west. This is the tornado watch area that's, there it is now, from North Florida all the way down to South Florida. The entire state has the possibility of severe weather in any of these rain bands, and in those rain bands there could be some tornadic activity, again, till the morning hours of Saturday for both the flood watch and the tornado watch. This is the satellite radar composite, a lot of rainfall obviously and wind with this system, but I want to show you a 7 storm scan now. This is the eye moving into Charlotte Harbor, now moving toward Punta Gorda. Let's get a closer look. All these spiraling rain bands have hurricane force winds in them. There's the eye now past Punta Gorda, past I-75. Let's get one more close look in here so I can show you exactly where it came in. We have the barrier, we have the islands off Fort Myers, Boca Grande, Captiva, Sanibel to the south. There's Charlotte Harbor. There goes the eye now, and slow weakening now that the eye is over land, but an unbelievable dangerous scenario here with that storm surge coming in from the southwest, then the northeast, and then the wind switching around as the eye passes. Storm surge up to 15 feet, waves up to 25 feet. We'll keep you posted on the damage potential here. That when we get the pictures in, we'll share them with you. I'll be back in a few minutes.
All right, Bill.
Well, we've already had the chance to take you to southwest Florida. I want to head a little north now, where folks had been bracing for the storm earlier today as well.
That would be Tampa, and that is where
reports are difficult, complicated, expensive, annoying, and we don't have them that often, and most people don't have experience. So we certainly sympathize because we went through it here in 1992, and I think that we can honestly say that almost everyone in the Dade and Broward County area felt exactly the same way back then, and maybe this will change mindsets on the west coast of the state. We feel badly that people have to suffer so for mindsets to change.
If I may just add one thing, we at work made the decision to close our plant, our manufacturing plant, and last night one of the vice presidents called me. He said, well, what do you think of our decision to close? I said, I think we're going to be kicking ourselves tomorrow. Looks like it was nothing. And then just before the storm hit, he called me again and said, boy, we're feeling pretty smart now, aren't we? I said, yeah, but unfortunately, I'm not feeling too smart at my own home. So, that's what people go through, and I think that you just have to say, listen, I need to take this serious at all times.
This is Tropical Depression number 4 off the west coast of Africa. This is now Tropical Depression number 5, about 800 miles to the east of the Lesser Antilles. Let's focus on that which is closer to us. Tropical Depression number 5, sustained winds right now at 35 miles per hour, moving to the west at about 20 miles per hour, depending on which one forms first. This will either be Danielle or Earl, and it's going to be bearing down on the Lesser Antilles as a tropical storm, moving into the eastern Caribbean as a Category 1 hurricane. And 4 to 5 days from now, this tropical system is forecast to be somewhere either in the central Caribbean or as far north as the Turks and Caicos or right around eastern Cuba. Now, Tropical Depression number 4 off the west coast of Africa, forecast to become either Tropical Storm Danielle or Earl, depending on when it forms. And then moving off toward the north, we're going to be watching this one for many, many days. By Monday, it's still going to be way out there. By Wednesday, it's still going to be way out in the central Atlantic, and it will still be approximately 2,200 miles east-southeast of.
Formed today. This one actually out here is 4, and this one is 5 because of the order that they formed. Both of them are forecast to become tropical storms. Here are the numbers: 8.9, yes, a very slow number, but moving west at 20, 1,000 miles from Windward Island. All this is well out there, but the main thing are the future tracks, because look at that. By Monday, Tropical Depression 5 is forecast to be in the Caribbean, and looking at the risk area through next Wednesday, forecast to be to the southeast of us, or just depending, anywhere from the southern Bahamas on down to the Caribbean. So we don't like that kind of forecast, but that's what we've got with Tropical Depression 5. 4 is way out there near Africa, but again, I want you to see the risk area on that one. This one, it lifts a little further north because the high pressure up here is a little bit weaker in the middle of the ocean. So the thinking is that it will begin a turn at some point, but it also indications it may turn back left. But again, that's a long, long way out, and we're not going to talk about that anymore.
Charley es un peligroso huracán de categoría número 4. El área de Fort Myers está siendo fuertemente afectada. El ciclón está golpeando la parte oeste y central de la Florida y alrededor de 2 millones de personas han sido ordenadas a evacuar.
Los Cayos de la Florida escapan con poco daño al paso de Charley sin recibir su impacto directo. Estas son las primeras imágenes llegadas desde Cayo Hueso, desde donde el ojo del huracán pasó a 70 millas esta mañana. ¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes.
Bienvenidos.
La Florida está bajo estado de emergencia debido a que el huracán Charley tocó tierra con una devastadora categoría 4.
Charley es el ciclón más poderoso en azotar a la Florida desde que el huracán Andrew pasó por nuestro estado en 1992. Vamos con nuestro meteorólogo John Morales, que tiene lo último.
Sí, una cosa triste, la verdad, para la parte suroeste de la Florida, porque este ciclón se fortaleció súbitamente sobre las cálidas aguas del sureste del Golfo de México. Están viendo imágenes de mi radar Doppler 51, nuestro radar Doppler 51, primero y preciso, y el ojo del huracán ya, como ven, se va rellenando. Esto sucede porque cuando ya entra en tierra, enseguida va perdiendo fuerzas. Y ven como el ojo ya pierde su definición. Está localizado al norte de Port Charlotte, al oeste de Lake Placid, y Sarasota está justo por aquí en la costa. Así que está pasando justo al norte ahora, o hacia el norte, para en camino a pasar entre Tampa y Orlando. Vamos a ver las imágenes del Viper. El Viper es esta tecnología nueva que estamos utilizando aquí en Telemundo 51. Y voy a aprovechar porque quiero mostrarles un par de cosas con el Viper. Primero que todo, vamos a hacer un acercamiento. Están viendo imágenes actuales combinadas de los diferentes radares meteorológicos disponibles en toda el área de la Florida. Ahí ven la carretera I-75, el ojo ya pasando al norte de ahí. Este huracán entró justo cerca de la bahía de Port Charlotte y se ha estado moviendo hacia el norte. Todavía siguen ocurriendo algunos tornados con el paso del sistema, son los cilindros que ustedes ven ahí en pantalla, mientras el huracán se mueve en esa dirección hacia el norte, repito, para pasar entre Tampa y Orlando en las próximas horas. Noten también, si miramos hacia el sureste, que el área del sureste de la Florida está libre de precipitaciones. Nos escapamos de la lluvia hoy y ya quedaron descontinuadas las vigilancias de tormenta tropical que estaban en vigor para nuestra zona, pero siguen en vigor vigilancias de inundación y vigilancia para la posibilidad de tornados. Vamos a ver la imagen de satélite mientras llegaba el huracán a la costa. Amigos, esto salió de Cuba con vientos de 105 millas por hora, vientos sostenidos. Hubo ráfagas registradas en La Habana de 124 millas por hora. Desde entonces, aquí en esta zona tan cálida fue que se fortaleció. El ojo del huracán, que estaba en 15 millas anoche, fue achicándose y llegó a ser de solo 5 millas de diámetro cuando entró en la costa, repito, en el área justo cercana a la isla Sanibel, a la isla Captiva, al área de Fort Myers y entonces hacia la zona de Port Charlotte. Actualmente los vientos permanecen en 145 millas por hora, latitud y longitud la ven en pantalla, está a 30 millas al oeste-noroeste de Fort Myers y está empezando a acelerar su movimiento hacia el norte-nordeste a razón de 22 millas por hora. En la mirilla del ciclón para esta noche, el norte de la Florida, se espera, sin embargo, que para cuando llegue ahí esté mucho más debilitado mientras siga en ese rumbo hacia el norte, ya para el sábado por la mañana pasando por Georgia y luego como tormenta tropical para mañana por la noche en el área de Virginia. Por cierto, hay una nueva depresión tropical, está localizada a 1000 millas al este de las islas de Barlovento y que conste que esta es la quinta, porque hay otra más que está por allá por la costa africana, pero por el momento ven los datos de esa nueva depresión tropical número 5 y su proyección en cuanto a la trayectoria se refiere de aquí a 3 días, pasando como huracán al sur de Puerto Rico. Así que habrá más de qué hablar en los próximos días, desafortunadamente, pero primero, obviamente, el desastre seguramente causado por el huracán Charley, categoría 4, entrando al suroeste de la Florida. Regreso a ustedes.
Gracias, John. Bueno, y en Telemundo 51 hemos seguido detalladamente la trayectoria de Charley durante todo el día.
Hemos desplegado nuestros equipos desde Cayo Hueso hasta Tampa y comenzamos nuestra cobertura con Claudín Caro en vivo desde Sarasota. Claudín, adelante.
Muy buenas tardes, María. Me encuentro en el condado Sarasota en estos momentos. Hace aproximadamente 2 horas que el viento empezó a cobrar un poco más de fuerza y también las lluvias no han cesado. Nos dirigíamos desde Tampa, donde nos encontrábamos esperando a Charley, pero como tiende a suceder con estos fenómenos atmosféricos, no pueden ser predecibles. Nos dirigíamos hasta Port Charlotte y Punta Gorda, el área donde luego, durante el día de hoy, pues Charley hizo de la suya. Sin embargo, por el peligro tuvimos que detenernos aquí en esta área, en el condado Sarasota, donde aproximadamente unas 60,000 personas fueron evacuadas. También el Centro de Operaciones de Emergencia ha hecho declaraciones recalcando a todos los residentes que se mantengan dentro de sus hogares. Ahora bien, donde el huracán Charley no perdonó fue en Fort Myers, tal como comentó nuestro meteorólogo John Morales hace apenas unos segundos. Ahí pueden ver ustedes el video, las ráfagas. Hasta ahora se especula que pudieron haber llegado, la marejada se especula que pudo haber llegado hasta más o menos unos 15 pies. También las zonas costeras en la isla de Sanibel, también captiva. Hasta esta hora no se ha podido realmente reportar cuánto fueron los daños, pero se esperan que son bastante. Y todavía continúa el huracán Charley siguiendo su trayectoria. Ha sido un huracán de categoría 4 y según las autoridades estatales, pues ha emitido, ¿no?, una mayor cantidad de evacuación, una evacuación masiva de aproximadamente 2 millones de personas, y esta ha sido la evacuación de mayor número de personas en su historia. Por ahora, el Estado sí ha reportado que se encuentra al tanto y presente y en alerta y preparado para inmediatamente, sea humanamente posible, enviar sus equipos de rescate a las zonas más afectadas. Por el momento, el huracán Charley continúa su trayectoria aquí en Sarasota. Ha sido uno de los lugares en donde, pues, si se puede decir de una manera, han tenido más suerte, donde no ha podido causar demasiados estragos, al menos al momento. Tenemos que chequear a ver cómo surge toda esta situación. Las zonas costeras definitivamente han recibido unos golpes bastante fuertes del huracán Charley. Nosotros le vamos a seguir el paso al huracán Charley, trayéndole a ustedes los últimos detalles, principalmente esta noche a las 11. Por el momento, desde el condado Sarasota, les informó Claudine Caro, Telemundo 51. Ambrosio María, regreso con ustedes.
Gracias. Ten mucho cuidado, Claudine.
Impresionantes imágenes que nos recuerdan mucho al huracán Andrew. Y bueno, después de la tormenta viene la calma, y ese es el ambiente esta tarde en Cayo Hueso, donde esperaban el azote de Charley.
Pero el Cayo respira tranquilidad. Esta tarde es viernes y día de fiesta para muchas personas ahí, así que vamos en vivo con Iván Taylor con lo último. Algunos están pensando en bailar, pero hay otros que hablan de pérdidas, Iván.
Buenas tardes desde el corazón de Cayo Hueso. Bueno, cabe destacar que en medio del alivio y podemos decir el júbilo de la mayoría de los habitantes, quienes aseguran que ya pasó todo lo que podría haber sido lo peor, hay quienes en efecto hablan de pérdidas, y estos son los pescadores de langostas, quienes consideran que siempre ellos son afectados por muy pequeño que sea un huracán. Al igual que el resto de los pobladores, estuvieron ellos en vilo durante horas. 7 de la mañana, hora del este en Cayo Hueso. Olas de 10 pies de altura, la marea crecida, lo suficiente como para sobrepasar esta pared. Los vientos a unas 50 millas por hora. Todo indicaba que el huracán Charley, entonces categoría 2, golpearía con fuerza a Key West.
Sí, aquí pasamos la noche y todo bien. El viento normal y eso, pero todo bien.
2 horas más tarde, un sentimiento de alivio de los residentes de casas móviles, la mayoría hispanos. Charley se alejó en dirección oeste, pero he aquí el resultado. Peces en la costa, arbustos en el suelo, cables eléctricos rotos.
Que cada vez que hay un huracán es un desastre, se acaba todo.
Ellos son pescadores cubanos, amanecieron contando sus pérdidas. Aseguran que siempre son afectados.
En los botes no tuvimos ninguna pérdida, pero pensamos que en las trampas hubo mucha pérdida.
Y ahí es donde se pesca la langosta. Cada trampa esta cuesta 26 pesos, 26 dólares cuesta a cada pescador. Hay que, de verdad, ahora ellos pierden un tongón de trampa.
En las calles de la ciudad, evidencias del pánico que sembró el huracán. Láminas de madera y de metal. Pero hoy Charley en Cayo Hueso es solo lo que el viento se llevó. Ahora bien, nosotros estamos llegando en vivo a ustedes desde un balcón de la conocidísima calle Duval en Cayo Hueso, una ciudad muy famosa por ser una atracción turística donde siempre vienen visitantes a festejar y a tomar licor. Y bueno, cabe destacar que aunque algunos de los negocios continúan cerrados, el alcalde de Cayo Hueso ya autorizó que restaurantes y bares abran sus puertas, y hay muchas personas que anuncian que esta noche estarán celebrando. Desde aquí les informó en vivo Iván Taylor,
Telemundo 51. Regreso con ustedes al estudio.
Gracias, Iván.
El espíritu de Cayo Hueso, el Cayo. Gracias, Iván. ¿Cómo no? Claro que sí. Bueno, y pasamos a nuestro centro de satélites con Juan Manuel Cao.
Cao ha estado monitoreando el paso de Charley por Cuba y nos tiene ahora la secuela que dejó atrás y lamentablemente cobró vidas humanas, hubo pérdidas de vidas. Cao.
Bueno, se han reportado 3 muertes. Hay que destacar que desde 1966 ningún huracán, el ojo de ningún huracán atravesaba de un lado a otro la capital cubana. En 1985 el huracán aquí simplemente pasó de modo adyacente y en 1998 otro huracán que llegó a La Habana simplemente ya era tormenta tropical. O sea que hace más de 40 años que no pasaba lo que sucedió anoche en Cuba. Desde 1966 el ojo de un huracán no atravesaba La Habana. Eso fue hace casi 40 años. El viento de anoche presagiaba las casas destruidas que mostró luego la luz del día.
El ciclón que lo que se metió aquí fue, no es loco como dijeron, fue el cuerpo completo del ciclón que acabó aquí con todo. ¿Sí? Con todo acabó.
Una gran cantidad de árboles se vinieron abajo y el daño material sigue contabilizándose.
Nosotros soportamos lo mismo.
Fidel Castro se presentó en el Centro de Meteorología al filo de la madrugada, pero luego habló más de política que del propio ciclón, al punto de que los periodistas tuvieron que recordarle la existencia del huracán Charley.
Victoria el 13 ya lo hemos metido.
Ya salió.
Ya salió.
¿Qué salió?
Charley, el huracán.
Por culpa de ustedes yo no pude ver nada de Charley.
Comandante, permítame.
Sí, yo lo que estaba charlando todo el tiempo que pasó por aquí.
No hay luz, no hay gas.
Hurricane Charley doing some serious damage to Florida's Gulf Coast. The extent of the devastation still being determined after the storm makes landfall as a Category 4 hurricane.
And with that in mind, we urge you to tune in tomorrow morning for an expanded edition of Today in Florida, the Saturday edition. We will bring you the latest on the aftermath of Charley. 4 full hours of news. It begins at 6 a.m.
But right now, that's going to do it for us tonight, first at 10. I'm Belkis Nure.
I'm Craig Stevens. Stay tuned. More on Charley next at 11.
Live from the news station, this is 7 News at 11.
Tonight.
This storm has had a devastating impact on as it's hit our state.
Hurricane Charley stronger than expected and surprising millions in the Sunshine State. A look at what the storm left behind as it makes its next move. 7 News extensive coverage continues right now. Hello again, everyone. Florida hit with its strongest storm since Andrew.
And the damage could be even worse. We have a network of reporters covering the storm tonight. We want to begin once again with Charles Balai live for us. He is in downtown Fort Myers. Our network of reporters, we'll get to all of them in just a few moments. First, though, here's Charles in downtown. Charles?
Okay, Belkis and Craig, we showed you this at 10 o'clock. We're going to do it again at 11 for those who didn't see it. Ready, guys? On 1, 2, 3. This is what it looks like in downtown Fort Myers. There isn't a drop of juice in this place, and the only lights are from the 7 satellite truck. Let's spin the camera back around, turn the lights back on, and show you some of the damage. This is the Federal Post Office right behind me. The roof is missing, and it's laying in the parking lot. Here's half of it right there. We can tell you that there are 500,000 people who are without power in the state of Florida tonight, and the cleanup hasn't even begun.
Looks like it's gusting probably around 50 miles, 45, 50 mile an hour wind.
Hurricane Charley visited southwest Florida and left his calling card of damage behind. The storm, packing 145 mile-per-hour winds, ripped at buildings, trees, awnings, leaving parts of Fort Myers, Charlotte County, and Cape Coral in the dark. Oh, man, I didn't want to get wet. The storm first brushed Marco Island in Naples, bringing 75 mile-per-hour gusts and a lot of rain. This is the situation right now in Naples. We are south of where the center of the hurricane is located right now. We are hearing from emergency management crews that they got a lot of phone calls right after noon when the direction of the storm seemed to switch more toward the east. There are a lot of people on Marco Island and here on Fort Myers Beach that did not heed the warnings, and now many people are worried that they don't have any place to go. In Old Naples, close to the pier, residents who ignored evacuation orders changed their minds when Charley turned westward, many seeking shelter in parking garages.
Well, we were just kind of hanging out at the house when all of a sudden we realized we probably needed to leave the house because we were concerned about the storm surge. So this was the closest, highest ground that we could get to in a hurry.
Moving north along the coast, Charley slammed Fort Myers, ripping roofs off buildings, tearing off awnings, downing power lines, and splitting huge oaks in half. Dozens of residents who didn't evacuate raced to the beach, cameras in hand to capture Charley's power on tape. Huge waves pounded the coastline, leaving many people awestruck.
I just wanted to come down here and see this, probably close I'm ever going to get to something like this, because I don't want to get much closer than this.
How much longer before you actually find a place of shelter and stay there while this storm comes through?
When I'm done talking to you, I'm heading back in, because I got a wife and kid to think about.
Okay, within the past couple of minutes, we have seen cleanup crews moving around this downtown area. There are a lot of trees down in downtown. Of course, streets are going to have to be cleared, and we can hear some chainsaws, buzzsaws going on in the background. We can tell you that 2 hours after Hurricane Charley moved on shore, President Bush declared 4 Florida counties, Charlotte, Lee, Sarasota, and Manatee counties, federal disaster areas, and he authorized federal funds to be used to help in the cleanup and anybody who's been affected. We can also tell you that Hurricane Charley is now being blamed for 3 deaths, 2 in the state of Florida, both traffic related when the wind blew cars off the street and that car hit a tree. 1 death in Jamaica. That's the situation in Fort Myers tonight. I'm Charles Malai, 7 News at 11.
And from the city of Palms, Fort Myers, we head north now to Venice.
That's where 7's Lynn Gordon is. She continues our coverage in another area that felt the force. Lynn?
Well, Belkis, here in Venice Beach, folks are definitely breathing a sigh of relief. They feel very lucky tonight, but that's
Hurricane Charley blows into Florida's Gulf Coast, packing winds of over 140 miles per hour. The Category 4 hurricane making landfall far south of the Tampa Bay area, its projected target, instead slamming into Charlotte County, just north of Fort Myers. The storm causing considerable damage. The wind so strong it picked up this camper and tossed it on top of a car that had been next to it in the driveway. This couple was hunkered down in their home, riding out the storm when they heard the howling, then the crash.
It was pretty scary. We're from North Carolina and we've been in a lot of hurricanes, but this is the worst one.
This is one of the areas of Port Charlotte that was hit the hardest. Take a look over here. This light pole was ripped out of the ground. And over here, trees were snapped in half and uprooted. In fact, so many trees are down on this particular part of the road, much of it is blocked. All over Port Charlotte, power lines are down, streets are flooded, screened-in patios are bent and destroyed. At this lighting business on 41, the roof was ripped open and everything inside is trashed and soaking wet.
The roof is caved in over the office area there. Lights are out of the ceiling. Just a total disaster in there.
You never expected this?
Never at all, no.
And tonight we are getting reports of significant numbers of injuries in Charlotte County. That is coming from emergency management officials there. Also, a number of power outages in that area. Crews will be obviously down there trying to restore power to that area. Also, people who evacuated don't know what they will be going home to tomorrow. That is when the cleanup will begin. We are live in Venice Beach. I'm Lynn Gordon, 7 News.
And from Venice Beach, we want to head now to an area where they were expecting a direct hit.
Reporter Jonathan Seri joins us live from a very lucky Tampa this evening. Jonathan.
Belkis, a very lucky Tampa indeed. Originally they thought that the eye of the storm would head straight up Tampa Bay, in which case this area where I'm standing in downtown Tampa would be under as much as 16 feet of water. But as you can see, it's a beautiful evening and no damage to report. Not just here, but throughout the entire Tampa Bay area. No damage or power outages to report. There was one squall that came through here early in the evening, just a little bit of rain, some light winds, but nothing that you would expect from a Category 4 hurricane. The storm bypassed the Tampa Bay area and instead struck southwest Florida with a vengeance.
It was a nightmare scenario come true. Hurricane Charley took an unexpected turn, striking the Florida coast farther south and with more intensity than forecasters had originally predicted.
At approximately 3:45 p.m., the eye of Hurricane Charley came ashore very close to Sanibel Island and then into Charlotte Harbor as a 145-mile-per-hour maximum sustained wind, Category 4 hurricane.
Making landfall in Charlotte Harbor, the most powerful storm in Florida since Hurricane Andrew, is working its way across the state, leaving a path of destruction in its wake, and officials trying to predict what's next.
Hurricanes aren't linear thinkers. They don't act linearly. They are fierce weather systems that don't go exactly where a computer model will suggest that they go.
In fact, other parts of the state, including Tampa, where the eye was originally expected to hit, went relatively untouched. But Charley's powerful winds whipped through the small city of Punta Gorda, causing extensive damage to the surprise of both residents and storm experts.
Hurricane forecasting is not a perfect science. There is an uncertainty to those forecasts, and we must respect Mother Nature.
And because of that uncertainty and respect, they are taking no chances. In South Carolina, the governor is already calling for evacuations of some of the low-lying areas of his state because the concern is that once Charley punches through Florida and moves out into the Atlantic, it may strengthen yet again and start threatening the coastal regions, not just of Florida, but Georgia and both Carolinas. Craig and Belkis, back to you.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Right now, what we want to do is head on over to the Satellite Center.
Yeah, 7's Sharon Melton is there with some pretty incredible pictures from this day of stormy weather. Sharon?
They're really dramatic. Tonight, we are getting a first look at just how intense the entire experience was as the eye of Charley crashed ashore.
The roar of a howling wind, a street turned into a lake. Hurricane Charley at its most destructive, up close and personal.
This is Mission Control Houston. This video of Hurricane Charley again was taken from the International Space Station.
The vastness of the storm can be seen firsthand from outer space as the huge plume of clouds blanket the entire west coast of Florida.
It's bad here. It's much worse on island.
Back here on Earth, from a roof cam, the intense hurricane nearly blocking the view of the area as Sanibel city manager talks about the weight of the storm on residents. Over 100-mile-per-hour winds whipped by this hotel, throwing around trees, nearly toppling over an 18-wheeler parked nearby. The force of the wind nearly pulling some trees from their roots. Then, all of a sudden, the unthinkable happens.
Boom. There it was. It happened pretty quickly, but the roof actually collapsed in. And you can
Luckily, no one was hurt. A scene repeated everywhere, people huddled up in hallways to stay safe and wait out the storm, and for good reason. Planes tossed around like toys at an airport in Charlotte County, leaving several hangars in shambles.
The effects of Hurricane Charley are really being felt on Goodland right now. Take a look at this dock over here.
Reporters from around the state revealing the destruction, encouraging everyone to stay inside. But it didn't stop the curious, or in some cases the careless, from venturing outside at their own risk.
And unfortunately, that's probably just a small part of the damage done at this point. When the sun comes up early in the morning, we could start seeing mass destruction from the Category 4 storm. Live in the Newsplex tonight, Sharon Melton, 7 News at 11.
Well, not that we want to think about it on a day like this, but Charley has some company in the tropics.
Oh, you had to go there. There are 2 new systems taking shape. Chief Meteorologist Bill Kamal is tracking everything. Bill?
Belkis, we'll start with the Atlantic Basin, and there's Charley curving around into southwest Florida, and behind it now we have 2 more tropical depressions that were initiated today. We have TD5, which is closest to the islands, and now TD4, which has become Tropical Storm Danielle, and eventually TD5 will become Tropical Storm Earl, and there may be some watches needed for the Lesser Antilles as early as tomorrow. Now we'll go to 7 Storm Scan and show you the path of all of these. First of all, Charley, from now, which is just 10 miles to the southwest of Daytona Beach, will ride up into the South Carolina coastline, into North Carolina, southeast Virginia, Delaware, New Jersey, past west of New York City, and slowly weaken but still be a wind and rain maker way up in the northeastern United States. Now that's Charley. Let's go to TD4 now, which was TD4 a little while ago, now Danielle. This one will become a stronger tropical storm, but it will ride to the northwest and then eventually to the north into the central and north Atlantic and not bother anybody. And last but certainly not least is TD5. TD5 will eventually become Tropical Storm Earl as we get into the weekend, and then a hurricane as forecast by the National Hurricane Center. And this track will be crucial because if it goes into the Caribbean, notice this northwest nudge here. If it goes into the Caribbean, we'll have to watch it closely. If it takes that northwest turn, it is forecast to be Hurricane Earl sometime next week. Usually storms that affect Florida in August travel north of the Lesser Antilles near Puerto Rico and then north of Cuba. The only good news with this for us would be if it stays south of us and passes west, or if it gets eaten up or disrupted by the mountainous terrain of Hispaniola and Cuba. This is way out next week, too far to speculate at this point. But TD5 is the one we'll have to watch. And we'll have, of course, your South Florida weekend forecast, which thankfully is a normal Saturday, Sunday forecast in just a few minutes.
We are thankful for that. All right, Bill.
No kidding. Well, our coverage of Hurricane Charley continues in just minutes.
The storm crashing the Keys. A look at the calling card Charley left behind.
And I'm 7's Diane Fernandez, live in Pompano Beach, where early morning storms spawned by Hurricane Charley are being blamed for bringing down this huge tree. That story coming up.
Damage and destruction to our west, but exactly how much? Local rescue crews on their way right now to survey and plan.
También impactado Los Cayos antes de entrar a Everglades City y Fort Myers con una marejada ciclónica de hasta 8 pies de altura. Y por cierto, estoy muy curioso de ver los daños causados por esa marea de la tormenta, ras de mar, marejada ciclónica, como usted prefiera llamarle, porque hemos visto los daños de los vientos, como nos mostró Claudine Caro, pero seguramente ha habido serios daños debido al mar penetrando la costa. Bueno, aquí en el área metropolitana de Miami y Fort Lauderdale, la verdad es que fue un día relativamente tranquilo. Sí hubo brisa con suficientes ráfagas para alcanzar hasta 45 millas por hora en Boca Ratón, 43 aquí en Miramar, en los estudios de Telemundo 51, y en Shenandoah, con algo de lluvia, 41 millas por hora las ráfagas hoy. Las temperaturas están calientes, 85 grados a esta hora en Miami Beach y Fort Lauderdale, 84 Miami y Hialeah, pero el viento ya ha aflojado, está del sureste 7 millas por hora y la presión barométrica está subiendo. La acumulación de lluvia en Fort Lauderdale, 41 centésimas, y como no llovió tanto, la temperatura subió a 91, también 91 grados en Miami con poco menos de media pulgada de lluvia. Aquí va entonces Charley hacia el noreste con la nubosidad, sí, cubriéndonos a nosotros, pero amigos, ya quedaron descontinuadas todas y cada una de las advertencias, todas las vigilancias, todos los avisos, todo lo que estaba en vigor para el sur de la Florida, incluyendo las inundaciones, los tornados, los fuertes vientos, todo eso está descontinuado. Mañana va a ser un día relativamente normal. Hay riesgo de lluvia mañana, sencillamente debido a la humedad que deja atrás el huracán y la inestabilidad del verano, pero no más allá que la lluvia normal que se vería en un día de verano en nuestra área. Bueno, la depresión tropical número 5 es esta. La tormenta tropical Danielle es esta otra, inaugurando la temporada de Cabo Verde, una tormenta actualmente de intensidad mínima. Esta es la proyección de trayectoria, no de Danielle, que Danielle está a 2 semanas de camino de cualquier punto terrestre. Esta es la trayectoria de lo que sería la depresión tropical 5, convirtiéndose en Earl, es el próximo nombre a ser utilizado. De aquí el miércoles, otra vez trabajando aquí en Telemundo 51 para mantenerlos al tanto de lo que pueda ocurrir. Bueno, mañana, como dije, riesgo de algunas tormentas en la tarde, mientras que en el mar sigue la advertencia para
tiny coastal Port Charlotte into a scene of devastation.
We all just sat in the middle of the hallway with a mattress over us. All of us got in the middle, and we seen the back porch come. The whole ceiling came down.
There were tears at the Harborview Christian Church and School, where buildings were reduced to piles of wood, but at least nobody was inside.
Buildings can be rebuilt, things can be replaced. It's going to take a while, but, you know, we'll do it.
Earlier down the road in Fort Myers, the rain was still being whipped by the dying winds of Charley as he moved along, leaving less structural damage here, but no less of a mess. The rain bands continue to come in. This was one of the best-known spots in Fort Myers, the old winter home of Thomas Edison. But look at this. There are so many branches and trees down now, you can't even see the house. Out on I-75, 3 tractor-trailer trucks were lined up like a row of fallen dominoes. All 3 drivers, though, were okay.
It's very dangerous. That's the reason I went ahead and stayed up under a bridge and waited for all this to blow over, because I'm sitting empty. I never would have made it this far, you know. So these guys kind of took a chance, but luckily they didn't get hurt. Otherwise, it would have been a lot worse than what it turned out to be.
People here expected a storm, but thought Tampa was the target, not Port Charlotte.
I didn't think it was going to come right over, like, exactly here. But, yeah, I was kind of surprised. Nobody thought it was going to be that big of a deal until right when it happened, so it's pretty bad.
Damage here is expected to be in the millions in this area where the storm came ashore. Walking around here, you see the same sort of look on the faces of the people here as you did right after Hurricane Andrew. One woman came up to me and said, "How quickly do you think the power will be restored?" Just a few feet away from her, power lines were down. It was hard to have the heart to tell her it would not be days. More likely, it could be weeks. Governor Bush is expected to tour the area by helicopter sometime tomorrow. And when the sun comes up, we will get our first real look around the area to see how bad this storm damage really is.
Rather quickly, I noticed the size of the hurricane really shrinking. That's the difference between a Category 4, a major hurricane, down to a 1, 85-mile-an-hour sustained winds now. As Charley finally exits Florida, it goes back over Atlantic water before quickly moving into the Carolinas and the East Coast. You can see all the heavy rainfall falling again on the northeastern shores of Florida all the way up to Jacksonville. And again, one more time, the tight view, Daytona, Ormond Beach, really seeing the brunt of Hurricane Charley right now. We want to continue to concentrate on the tropics because as of 11 o'clock tonight, a new tropical storm, Danielle, brewing off the Cape Verde Islands in Africa. Also, Tropical Depression number 5. Even though it's only a depression, this is where I want to focus the attention first tonight. Right now, 30-mile-per-hour sustained winds, still 2,450 miles away from Miami, Florida, so a lot of water between the current location and where Miami's at. Now, why I want to talk about this one, notice the path, and forecasted to be a hurricane by Wednesday afternoon around Jamaica, taking an eerily similar path to what Charley just did. So even though this is a good ways out and the cone of air very large, we're going to have to continue to watch not only Tropical Depression number 5, but now the 4th named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season, Tropical Storm Danielle, 40-mile-per-hour sustained winds, moving off to the west of 15. The good news for Danielle, it's going to take a north and westerly track, so it looks like, again, this one will not be a problem for the coastal U.S., at least from South Carolina southward, but again, a long ways out. We'll continue to monitor.
From ABC News. This is Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
It's late, it's dark, and they won't begin to know the full extent of the disaster until damage assessment teams spread out after daylight. But Florida Governor Jeb Bush has somehow pulled the sum of $15 billion out of Hurricane Charley's wake and is estimating that the ultimate cost could well exceed that amount. He's already been in touch with his brother, the president, who has declared the storm-battered region a federal disaster area. The Category 4 storm slammed into the Gulf Coast of west central Florida with winds of up to 145 miles an hour. That, combined with a high tide, created a wall of water 15 feet high. At this hour, the storm is in the Orlando region, heading north. Expecting the worst, the folks at Disney World, Universal Orlando, and SeaWorld Orlando closed down early this afternoon. We're going to give you an update of how things are in the hurricane's wake, what Orlando is going through right now, and where the storm is headed over the next couple of days. And then a complete change of tempo as we offer an appreciation of a great lady, Julia Child, a.k.a. the French chef, who died yesterday at the age of 91. But first, it's Hurricane Charley. Port Charlotte was one of the first towns hit by the storm. Ross Cavett of our affiliate WSB is there. And Ross, by sort of focusing on what is behind you, give us a sense of what is all around you up and down the Gulf Coast.
Well, this is what used to be an auto parts store here, Ted, in Port Charlotte. The roof was peeled off as the eye of the hurricane went overhead. The front then caved in and the contents inside were all tossed around. It's a scene you see for several miles as you come into the Port Charlotte area heading over to Punta Gorda. A very narrow path of extremely serious damage here as the 145-mile-an-hour winds hit this area along with that storm surge. Many of the residents I talked to said they believe they saw several tornadoes wrapped in these winds as well that did some of this damage. Perhaps a larger percentage of residents were here to witness this hurricane than might be a normal scenario because most of the folks here thought this would be a Tampa Bay event. But as we know, Hurricane Charley had other ideas, turned right during the day and hit this area head on.
I know there's been a tremendous amount of property damage. Ross, what about loss of life?
Well, we haven't heard any confirmed reports of fatalities yet, but I will tell you in the few hours that existed between Charley's exit here and the sunset, we heard firefighters scrambling to check some of the heavily damaged areas, and they were not able to get into those many areas. They worry what they might find when the sun comes up tomorrow. Hospitals were also hard hit, and it's unclear how many casualties there have been or if there have been any fatalities here.
Ross Cavett, many thanks. Hurricane Charley has just passed through the Orlando area. We turn now to reporter Cynthia Demas from our affiliate WFTV. I know it's dark, you can't see much, but what can you tell us about what has happened in Orlando? You weren't really expecting this, were you?
No, we weren't, and actually a lot of the people from the West Coast ended up coming inland to try and escape the storm, but they ended up getting right in its path. Earlier, just about 2 hours ago, when we were really getting hit by the storm here, I could actually lean into the wind and it would actually hold me up. That's how strong it was out here. Right now, we're looking at aftermath, a lot of debris on the ground, a lot of trees down. Pretty much all the power in the area is out. I did get a chance to drive around just a little bit, and we did find that a lot of branches and those missiles that are created during this situation did go through a lot of people's windows. So a lot of people out there trying to board up at this late night hour, Ted.
But in terms of what happened along the Gulf Coast, it doesn't sound as though Orlando has been quite as badly hit.
No, well, fortunately for us at least, you know, when a hurricane hits land, it tends to slow down. So in Osceola County, which is where Disney World is, it was about 80 miles an hour. By the time it got a little further north into Orlando, it was about 105 miles per hour. So for us, we were looking at a Category 2 storm instead of Category 4, which Charley was as he approached. Ted?
Cynthia Demas, thanks very much indeed. Max Mayfield is the director of the National Hurricane Center. He is in Miami. Max, give us a sense of what the immediate future of the storm is.
Well, you can see the pretty ragged center that's left now exiting or just about ready to exit the Florida East Coast in the vicinity of Daytona Beach. It will continue moving rapidly up the eastern seaboard. By tomorrow morning, we'll likely be just off the South Carolina coast. Tomorrow afternoon, likely near the South Carolina-North Carolina border, and continue northeastern from there. We're very concerned now with the, in fact, I should point this out, the hurricane warning now goes all the way up from the Florida coast to Oregon Inlet in North Carolina. Near and to the east, or where the center crosses the coast up there, we need to be concerned about the storm surge flooding there. We could have 8 to 10 feet of storm surge up there in the Carolinas. We don't think it's going to regain strength to a major hurricane, but we don't want to minimize even a Category 1 or possibly a Category 2 hurricane.
Max, in the few seconds that we have left, just put sort of a few time hacks on this. When can we expect it in the mid-Atlantic states, for example? When can they expect it in the Northeast, and what will be left of it?
Okay, sure. I think by the time it gets onto the coast here early tomorrow afternoon, we'll be right about here. By 8 p.m., likely over northeastern North Carolina, and then we'll be losing tropical characteristics, be down to a tropical storm. As it moves on up here by Sunday morning, we'll be up in the Long Island.
Well, it's a city that could definitely use it, and it's also a city that's going to have to watch out, unfortunately, for the same kind of thing that we saw in South Dade after Andrew, and those are the gougers, the people who would come in and charge, you know, $10 for a bottle of water, things like that. It's only 8:30, 8:45 in the morning here, but the sun is already up. It is hot. These people have been through one night already with no power, no air conditioning. It is going to begin to get miserable, and people begin to get desperate. And we hope that they don't fall victim to some of the same kind of price gouging that we saw in South Dade after Andrew, until the state really flexed its muscle and went after some of those people. But, you know, again, over on this side of the coast, there hasn't been a hurricane that many of the people either don't remember or were never here for any hurricane. So I think there's a little of that too.
I think it's fair to say that most people probably living there have not had to experience anything like this. Rad, listen, stand by there for just 1 second. And this is really, I think, a very important part of our coverage this morning. As you folks at home are listening and watching this and you're saying to yourself, how can I help? We do have a way. The Local 10 problem solvers have joined up with Publix, and dotting our area, we have 6 locations where you can go and you can donate some key items. JC Birch is joining us live. She's in Miami Shores at the Publix there.
For our Gus, I know, again, you haven't had a chance to really explore the area, but do you get a sense from the people that you have seen, just the sense and the sheer magnitude of what happened here? I mean, you can really see it on their faces, right?
Tom, we have heard a little bit. There is a death toll. We're uncertain, unclear numbers at this point. We know that some of the trailers, people that were in low-lying areas around the Peace River, didn't really have a chance to get out. And those that made the decision to stay and fight the storm really were up against no odds. But we did hear reports, and there are some things on the wires saying that there have been stacks of bodies in some areas. We talked to a few Charlotte County sheriff's officers today that said they have that information too, but right now just a lot is unclear. There is a death toll, there is some serious damage, but in terms of numbers right now, it's a little early to tell, but we're trying to find it, we're working it, and as soon as we get some more information, we'll try to get back to you on that. In the hospitals, we heard yesterday driving in, we were in Naples and Tyler County when the storm came in last night. We heard that hospitals were closed down, they were booked up. Shelters filled up pretty earlier too. In Cape Coral, they had 9,000 people inside of shelters. Hospitals had to close down very early, well before the storm came in. But we're working a lot of information, and we're trying to get to the best area to get you guys some good pictures back in Miami.
And Chris, this is Diana Diaz. You and I have spoken about how bad it was to go through Hurricane Andrew. Tell us how it was to be in that area when it came through. What was it like?
Well, we see a lot of people walking around this morning. They're getting up, they're walking around. A lot of people are kind of dazed and confused. You can tell those that did decide to stand up against the storm last night are looking at the aftermath as we're seeing the first images ourselves. There's just a lot of disbelief around here. People are, you always, when you live in an area, you always think it's not going to happen to you. And a lot of people are walking around right now assessing the damage, taking a look at things, and talking to us, having some things to say to the media, but really just kind of in disbelief and in awe and shock of what's landed in their backyard here in Punta Gorda.
Now,
before up close, you know, so obviously, I'm as shocked as many of these residents are because it's something that you read about and you hear about, but, obviously when it hits them so close to home, I can't even imagine how they feel, to be honest.
Well, we are getting some word in from some folks who have weathered the storm, and one lady that is quoted here in the wires, she said in her home she was actually holding on to the door, Darren, trying to keep that door shut, but she couldn't do it, and the door just flew open, and there was such a vacuum in your ears that it made your head hurt. Just one of the many stories coming out of that area. And again, we talked about all the devastation. As you make your way there, are you finding the roads hard to maneuver?
So far, the roads seem pretty clear. Yesterday, when I was driving, because I
counts here, and we have it in South Florida, and so people know exactly what the people in Southwest Florida are going to need. And I was when we were at Publix yesterday, it was great to see there's no questions asked. They know they need water. They know they're going to need canned food. Okay, cookies are okay, but no, they need things like things with protein, canned tuna, things that won't unperishables that will sustain them, that will hydrate them, that will keep them healthy for the long haul. And it was amazing that people are so now aware of all of that because of what they went through.
And JC, real quick, what about their attitude? When I was there yesterday when we launched this whole thing, people just really had such a great giving attitude. Are you there? Oh, darn it, we lost JC, but that's okay. But we thought, she's busy. She's accepting the donations. We appreciate that. Now, listen, this storm, as you know, you're looking at pictures here from the central part of the state. These pictures were from Lake Wales, but it also hit very hard in Hardy County, the town of Wauchula. Here's some comments now from resident Belinda Carter.
I've never seen anything like this before. We got houses that are down, trailer homes that are down, demolished to the ground. We don't have any water. We don't have any lights. And people are out just walking around the streets, and it's so unbelievable. I've seen things like this when I saw Hurricane Hugo in Miami. It's the same. It's no different. We are in a disaster area, and we need help.
In the area, again, I'm just estimating now, as of the advisory, it was around 35 miles southeast of Charleston, so probably landfall right now or so, or it's going to be imminent across that area as we continue to see winds around 85 miles per hour sustained and some gusty squalls around the system. And we do have to eye another tropical system. This is Tropical Depression number 5 and Tropical Storm Danielle way out in the Atlantic. I'll have updates on that coming up.
still. There's an eye of a storm. Here's Charleston, South Carolina. Here's North Carolina. The storm is just offshore of Charleston, South Carolina. Category 1 hurricane. We do have the projected path, what we expect for this thing to happen. What it is, as you know, it's a hurricane. We're looking right now at the water vapor imagery, and what's going to happen with this thing is that the jet stream, which is farther off to the north here, it's going to pick this thing up and continue to move it off right along the eastern seaboard as we head through the afternoon. Here are the latest numbers as of 8 o'clock this morning. The newest advisory came in 32.3 north, 79.7 west. It's 40 miles now to the south-southeast of Charleston, South Carolina, with winds sustained at 85 miles an hour. That makes it Category 1 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, gusting up to 85 miles an hour. Moving to the north-northeast now at 30 miles an hour, with the pressure falling slightly at 993 millibars. So as of 2 o'clock this afternoon, it is expected to make landfall somewhere on the South Carolina, North Carolina border. It will continue to move through North Carolina as a hurricane, eventually dying back down to tropical storm status as it moves over the Delmarva Peninsula, then heading off to the northeast into the New England states, bringing lots of wet weather with it, talking rain, we're talking thunder, we're talking lightning, the whole shebang. Also, we want to keep you updated as to what's happening farther out in the Atlantic Ocean. Just south of the Cape Verde Islands, what we have going now, Tropical Storm Danielle, as of 5 o'clock this morning, about 4,000 miles away from Miami, but still we need to be aware of what's happening here. Winds are sustained at 45 miles an hour. Another storm to talk about just east of the Windward Islands right now. This is Tropical Depression number 5. As of 5 o'clock this morning, 2,300 miles to the east-southeast of Miami. Wind sustained 35 miles an hour. Here's a look at the forecast track for Tropical Depression number 5. As we head into Monday morning, moving over the island. As we head into Wednesday morning, moving over the same areas the Tropical Storm Charley moved through, eventually becoming Hurricane Charley, as you know. Moving over Cuba, eventually becoming a hurricane as we head into Thursday morning. Wide cone of error by that point, but realize it does stretch all the way up from the eastern half of Florida, all the way down into Mexico, into the Yucatan.
And every time we get new pictures, it just tells a similar story. Hurricane Charley, as it worked its way from the southwestern part of our state to the northeastern part of our state, there are pockets of severe damage. You know, the best line of the morning we talked about it as far as to describe it is it was unmerciful, and I think that really describes it. We're not sure where this came in here. I believe this is from Punta Gorda, which was just really slammed.
We've been looking at the pictures of destruction one after the other, but I think what really hits home is when you see a person like we just saw standing and looking at what he or she has to deal with an utter look of just sheer bewilderment on their face, and that just brings home what the results of Hurricane Charley are.
How about this? 3 hospitals out of service because of bad damage in Punta Gorda. The Emergency Operations Center is not operational. 2 shelters where people went to seek shelter significantly damaged. The sheriff's office is destroyed. 7 fire stations gone. All the things that these residents need to depend on, they can't right now. It's just incredible when we read these new bits of information coming in.
A surprise location at a surprising strength. Hurricane Charley hit Punta Gorda, and that is where we find Eric Hong right now with a live report. Eric.
Good morning. Right now we are standing in what's left of the downtown area of Punta Gorda, which was hit with 145 mile per hour sustained winds as Charley made landfall yesterday. Right now we're seeing a stream of cars headed back into town. These are presumably folks who left town yesterday ahead of the storm. Now they're coming back and finding this scene. Those winds tore through these buildings this morning. There is broken glass everywhere. Streets are lined with debris. Trees literally snapped in half. As bad as the situation here is, it is here. A mobile home park right now is the focus of attention. Officials say several people there were killed when Charley blew ashore. Even those who expected the worst didn't expect this. Community after community, wherever Charley went, destruction followed. Changing course and gaining strength, Charley first made landfall Friday afternoon near Charlotte Harbor on Florida's southwest coast. In nearby Punta Gorda, a city of 15,000, scores of buildings were left in shambles. Roofs were lifted off their trusses, and many felt lucky to be alive.
The roof blew up, hit right in my head. I'm running out.
I could not believe what I was going through.
It was loud, very windy, very scary.
Trailer parks were overturned. Charlotte County Airport was left in ruins, and downtown Punta Gorda looked like a war zone.
Why'd you stay in town?
Oh, because I didn't think it was coming here.
The director of the local Holiday Inn says news reports urging residents to evacuate spurred him to act.
It's amazing how many lives were saved today.
By midnight, the center of the storm had moved offshore into the Atlantic Ocean, setting its sights next on the South Carolina coast.
Had Charley come ashore 80 miles north near Tampa Bay, it would have put millions of people in the direct path of this storm rather than thousands. Still, the situation here in Punta Gorda is very bleak. Hundreds remain unaccounted for throughout the county, and the death toll is expected to rise dramatically as the day
is. That's Route 17 and Route 41. We are farther south on 41 to try to show you what the traffic situation is here. And as we look out onto State Road 41, you can see that the lanes that normally would be the northbound lanes have been shut down by debris. So you have north and south traffic now all using the southbound lanes. A lot of these people that you see are rubberneckers who have come to look. Many are residents who are coming back in here for the first time, having left. I should tell you that last night, trying to find a motel around here, that was open, was absolutely impossible. Everything was booked. Many of the hotels had no power, so people who had no power, hoping to go to a hotel or motel for some sort of relief, found either they couldn't find a hotel or motel, or they would wind up in one, as we did, with no power last night, no hot water, no electricity. But the report from Eric Hung of that trailer park where there may have been several deaths. Our Local 10's Judia Chavez was at that trailer park this morning, and we expect her to be joining us in a bit, and we will see for ourselves what happened there. That is obviously, as Eric mentioned, the center of the most concern this morning. But again, as I mentioned in an earlier chat with you, getting around here, what would normally be a trip of 5 to 10 minutes in this town of 15,000, today is a monumental traffic jam, not unlike what we face on I-95. Look across the street, and I think there's a good lesson here. That's a Toyota dealership. Once this truck goes by, you will see some of the employees in there who have been carrying out wet, soggy records. And we talk so many times, how many times have we heard Don Noe say, make sure your records are in a waterproof, some kind of waterproof wrap. Here is proof of why, because when you wait too long, there just is not time to do that because you're worried about your own life and limb. And the result is people picking through wet, soggy records here, not to mention the no roof on the dealership. There's one new car that you can see that's still on the showroom floor. The cars outside are covered with debris. So a very visual lesson as to the importance of taking care of your documents. Mark?
Hey, Rad, with the power out and with us talking about the fact that the EOC is not operational, sheriff's office destroyed, fire stations, how in the world are people there getting any pertinent information?
Well, as far as news reports, one person yelled at us as we were setting up this shot for you, how are we going to see this? Well, they're not. They're not going to see TV with no power unless they have a battery TV. I believe Wink TV out of Fort Myers, I think, is on the air. But again, it's back to the old days of radio and cell phones. And as we were discussing earlier, while a cell phone is a great modern convenience, if you suddenly have thousands and thousands of people in one area trying to use that cell phone, you're going to have to wait quite a long time to get a cell if the towers are even up. So we have been lucky enough to get this cell that I'm using to hear you, and frankly, we're not going to let it go for a while.
You know, Rad, you make a very good point, because there is no doubt that people around in the places that are not hit, who have friends or family or properties in the Southwest coast, are trying to call in, and probably good advice to let them know, unless it's an emergency call at this point, to leave those lines and those cell availabilities open for the people there who need them.
And the one reason, of course, that we are keeping this line with you, Rad, is because so many of us in here, South Florida, have friends, have family in the area that we're looking at there, and this is the Southeast Florida link to finding out what's going on over there, so we can try to set the minds at ease, perhaps, for people that live in this part of the world. You know, and Rad, I'm wondering, and Glenn, I'll toss this out to you as well, as we looked at the pictures of all the people driving by your location. I wonder when reality is going to set in. This is that fog after, you know, something like this, where they're driving around just sort of taking it all in, taking pictures. You wonder when they're going to, if you will, have those pictures develop in their mind when they say, well, wait a minute, this is my town.
I mean, I think based on our experience with
updates, Diana, that you were talking about. An emergency notice has been issued in Charlotte County. The Lee Memorial Health System saying they need physicians there at all 3 hospitals. And in fact, just a couple of minutes ago, we were given an update that the Charlotte Medical Center there is treating 200 patients, get this, in the parking lot. The hospital suffering severe damage. Many even had to evacuate those patients. According to officials, in fact, the hospital in Cape Coral has such a gaping hole in its roof that the building is now unusable. Residents this morning throughout the different neighborhoods dealing with the cleanup. Curfews have been set for the safety of those residents and also for the cleanup crews. We're told those times are between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. Now, Governor Jeb Bush is expected to arrive at Southwest Florida International Airport within the next hour and 20 minutes. We understand his itinerary will include visits to the Charlotte County Emergency Operations Center, local hospitals, etc. His brother, the president, declaring a major disaster in the state of Florida. Federal funding will be available, though, to Charlotte, Lee, Manatee, and Sarasota counties. Christine, those are the counties that we were talking about a short while ago. What we're looking at right now, you're looking at pictures of southeast of Tampa. It is an area known as Lake Wales, a very small town, but a town hit hard nonetheless. As you look at that apartment building right there with a huge hole in the roof.
Pound plane overturned. Now, this plane was held down by metal tie downs about 20 yards away. The force of Charley upended this plane and caused it to land on top of a fuel truck. Both the plane and the fuel truck were filled with fuel at the time. We're told that there was a leak here that's going to be cleaned up throughout the day, and this is not the end of the damage. Several hangars were not strong enough to withstand the driving winds. These at Sanford Airport have gaping holes. As we said, the airport is closed until further notice. On the access road to the airport, crumpled signs mark the path, along with this overturned mobile warning sign. In Orange County, Metro West, a chimney cracked off the roof of a condominium. And during the height of the storm, watch as these trees formed a curtain over Metro West Golf Course. At airports throughout Central Florida, we're told you'll see many a sight like this with upended airplanes as Charley left its mark.
You know, as you continue to look at that devastation there, we can tell you that there is significant hurricane damage reported at 3 Charlotte County hospitals as well as that entire area. Charlotte Regional Medical Center in Punta Gorda is evacuating all patients. More than 200 ambulances have lined up to carry patients to hospitals in Orlando, Sarasota, Tampa, and Lee County.
And 1.3 million people without any electricity,
right?
No power, and obviously no gas.
A lot of our people have been trying to get...
That's on the, I believe, the east side of Port Charlotte. There's 2 bridges there, and I'm sorry to say I do not know the name of the bridges that connects the 2 islands itself. That's the main drag. Here's another apartment complex. The roof is gone. Part of the, well, actually, the top is gone. Part of the roof is gone. You can see down inside the apartment.
It looks like that one's under construction. I have a feeling. It looks like the outer side of that building. Right, but then again, you know, this is again something where there's a money factor there. People trying to build a new apartment complex, and this is obviously going to set them back as well. One other thing I was taken by, Walt, is that's a fairly densely populated section there that you're flying over.
Very much so. There's no doubt about it. There's more damage of a nearby business.
And a lot of people out. We've been talking about a lot of the folks getting out with their cameras to find the damage and take pictures.
Yeah, and like a lot of power lines were down too. I'm not quite sure if there was power where we shot these shots, but we had noticed a lot of power lines down.
You know, it occurs to me, Mark, Walt, that when we report from our own town and our community that we know so well, here, wow, here we find ourselves reporting on an area that we don't live in, that Walt, you didn't know the name of the bridges. That's perfectly okay. This is the first time you're seeing this. But as much as we don't know about the details and specifics of the community we're looking at, how many parallels we can draw, how much in common we have with them, and know what they're going through as far as power and shelter and supplies and the feeling of losing everything in a catastrophic storm. It's just such a, it's just something that we can understand.
This is a supermarket. I was not able to find a sign out front, but as you can see, the back is destroyed.
Yeah, that appears to be some sort of a business there. You're right, in the back end. Boy, you know, I bet you if somebody pulled up to the front of that building, they wouldn't think anything had happened, and then you drive around the back and just look at it. But then again, this is what we're talking about. It is, you used a great term. You said it's sort of hopscotched its way. The damage is sort of here, there, and everywhere. And the debris field, mainly of aluminum siding, is everywhere. You can see the white aluminum siding just spread over the entire area. Here's another mobile home park. And we're beginning at the very top. We'll pan down, as you can see. One of the trailers is okay, but most of them have been really severely destroyed. Oh, look right there, right in the middle there, too.
You know, only hope that people heeded the evacuation from what we're looking at.
Although this is the area where they're concerned that there may be a number of deaths involved in the storm. And, you know, we're not going to know for a few days the total number there. We're just hoping and praying that it's going to remain low. But to give you a little bit of perspective, if you don't remember, Hurricane Andrew, we had a total of 26 deaths. The problem here may be the fact that we're talking about such a widespread area. It's going to be hard to know. But look at this. I mean, my gosh, this is just these pictures are just indescribable here, Walt. This is what the stuff that you're talking about here when you talk about just incredible damage. You know, of course, as you mentioned when you're on your bit yesterday about public helping out, but these people need our help now. Well, there you go. And you're right. And it is now that they need our help. And, you know, one thing to point out there for people that may be going to those Publix locations we've been talking about, we are already starting to send supplies over there. We were going to wait until Monday, but the response is already pretty good. We certainly hope that if you're looking for ways to help, that you will allow us to be the conduit, if you will, for that, because we really need to reach out here. You know, these are maybe people we don't know personally, but boy, if you can't put yourself right in one of these homes and think, gosh, what would I do? Wow.
Walt, have you seen any personnel mobilizing there? Any national? I know the National Guard was in the air over at Berkeley.
Absolutely not. I saw more TV stations, helicopters, and newspapers, which apparently had rented helicopters. We all had to wait our turn for fuel at the Venice airport, which was one of the airports that was not even touched. The pilot tells me what we're coming up on so I can get focused in. Here's another trailer park.
Well, you listen. You're doing a great job. You know, we understand that this is just sort of catch as catch can here, and you have to, you know, you find the things and focus in. And we've explained this is raw video. We're looking at it for the first time, so no apologies necessary. You have certainly already, in just a short amount of time, covered an immense amount of ground. And I just keep reminding everybody as we're watching this, this is just an indication of the wide path of this storm, not just in this area, Punta Gorda, as we're looking at here, but it carried all the way through the center part of our state. Yeah.
Walt McDonald taking us on what is just an awful, awful video tour to see what Charley has left behind. This looks like a central part of some community.
Yes, I think it's like a clubhouse of some sort.
Clubhouse, yeah. That looks like screening.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we've noticed a lot of areas, even in the areas where the houses look pretty good, that the screens around the pool areas and backyards, obviously no match for hurricane force winds. But while you talk about the debris, look at that whole grass area there. I mean, it's everywhere.
It's all over the place here. You can see it there. Another trailer park, another mobile home park.
Another, and underline another. Glenna, you said there's how many in the county?
31 is the number we're getting that were damaged in the county. There may be more mobile home parks, but 31 mobile home parks just in one county that sustained bad damage.
Maybe there's like a china closet there. I mean, there's certain things that you pick out.
Can I just throw out at you what you're looking at here? The pieces of buildings you may be looking at may have come from a mile away.
Well, that's right. That's another really great point. And look, like here, basically some of the buildings are acting as sort of like the stopping point for the debris. I mean, if they weren't destroyed by the debris, they were pounded by it as it flew over and around them.
Walt, you're showing us now in the upper center of the screen there, we see a person who has come out, and we haven't seen many people in this neighborhood yet, but it looks like...
No, maybe one or two people in that at this hour. Maybe they were not even in the trailer park at the time.
Yeah, well, that's certainly, if that's true, very good news. And it looks like just now at 10:30 in the morning, people have been able to get by and get through the roads and come in and start assessing what they have there.
Yeah, a storage facility, boy. Look at all that. And again, here's someone's belongings just lined up in these bays there. And now you got to figure What's left in there is soaked, battered, broken. There's a boat there in the middle.
Plus waterlogged.
Yeah, well, exactly. You know, I think that each of these things, we keep finding reminders here. If you want to put yourself in the same boat as the people over there, you know, I know some of you have storage units. I know some of you live in a mobile home. I know some of you have, you know, a community center in your area. And it's just picture these things just, you know, walking out right now and picturing them gone. Picture looking at your neighbor's house and it's flattened and yours is damaged or yours is flattened. I mean, it's, you know, you put yourself in their position. You just wonder, how would I handle it? How would I do it?
One thing also, while flying up here in the direction we were, we found a lot of area which was flooded, and some of the animals, like the cows, were wading in hoof-deep water looking for some dry ground.
You know, I was just going to say, you were showing us the water. You had a big wide shot of the area, and it really gives a big picture of how much water is a part of this community. And to think that a Category 4 monster storm was headed this way, you gotta figure people there who live with the water around them should heed the preparedness, should heed the evacuation instructions, should know the vulnerability of Charlotte County and the counties that sit there right on the Gulf. I mean, the water is so integral to that. Look at that, that community. And the storm brings with it not only a storm surge that could put those cows underwater, but could put big buildings halfway underwater.
Hey Walt, quick question here. I want you to sort of take your reporter's hat off for a minute. You know, you captured all these pictures. Are you kind of numbed by it?
Absolutely. I just can't believe it. I mean, it's shades of Hurricane Andrew all the way around. Trees just literally pulled out of the ground because of the forest. This was Hurricane Andrew when I was here then. And
you know, it's interesting, and you're doing what we're doing, trying to describe this, and I just want you to understand that when you hit those moments of silence, you know, we're not looking at that as saying, well, gee, you can't Walt figure out something, can't Walt figure out something to say. We just understand that you're just like we are, just saying, what more can you say other than just taking this and look at this? I mean, every place we look, it's not just, oh, that building is slightly damaged. Look at this. Look at that boat thrown up on the side of the seawall there.
Yeah, the pictures tell the story. We will be bringing you more of these pictures from Walt McDonald and our crews around South Florida, Central Florida, where Charley has impacted. We're also efforting to get more information about what is going on today. Things
up here, I mean, no matter where you look, where we fly, there it is. Damage, destruction, and heartbreak.
And as we look at this, let me just remind everyone, because I know that one of the questions people have is, where is the storm now? We've just gotten into our newsroom that Hurricane Charley has officially now come ashore again, this time in McClellanville, South Carolina, the coast of South Carolina. Much of that area was under mandatory evacuation, but it has come ashore as a Category 1 hurricane there. We'll obviously keep you up to date on that because, again, so many folks here in South Florida maybe have a vacation home up there, a family home. Maybe they just like to visit up in that area. We'll keep you up to date on that. But, Walt, again, this area here that we're looking at, this is we're still over Punta Gorda?
Modular homes set with canals. They have boats and so forth just off the main thoroughfare in the Punta Gorda area. We've shot about 36 minutes of tape, then we've just began running low on fuel, and that was an important thing as far as we're concerned. And we had to fly on to Venice to get fuel, which had the operation going. There's a boat right there. It's unbelievable.
Walt, as we look at this destruction, I want to remind people that this area was where Charley came ashore yesterday at 145-mile-an-hour sustained winds. And you know, I'm no meteorologist, but I do know what sustained winds mean. But there are portions of a hurricane that throw off little tornadic wind bursts that are far higher than 145 miles an hour. And I think when we look at this destruction, there's a very good possibility that these homes, these boats, these trailer homes, these people's neighborhoods really took a hit of something more menacing than even a Category 4 in places. And we see somebody,
look at the trees, people
coming out to survey what went on.
Hey, Walt, one other thing, you know, that part of the country, since they've not had the kind of hurricane activity that we have over on the southeast coast, and the reminders, what I'm not seeing on many of the buildings that even withstood it, I sure don't see a lot of shutters.
Well, it's very difficult, at least for me, to pinpoint the actual shutters, but I couldn't even say if they were had shutters or not. It's so much damage and debris.
But I mean, it's really interesting to me. I've been kind of focusing in on that a lot of these areas, you know, certainly not prepared the way that we certainly are down here for this as well. Even those buildings that fared well, I didn't see a shutter in the mix. But again here, look, everywhere the camera points. Yeah. Everywhere the camera points. A little bit of interference there, and just because, again, Walt's traveling on his way back here.
Yeah, you know, it occurs to me that some of the neighborhoods that Walt is shooting, there are so many people who live up north who have homes in this particular area. It's a big golf course community. There is not time, or in many cases inclination, for people who are living their daily lives up north to heed a hurricane warning to make the trip, to come board up their homes. You know, so much of that is what you might be seeing, homes left bare because there is just nobody there to take care of them.
That's a really good point as well. And it continues here. And Walt, you believe this is still Punta Gorda we're looking at?
Yes, still Punta Gorda. More of the trailer of the mobile home. It's unbelievable. Destruction is...
You know, when you see a home or a residence that has damage, it's one thing. When you see the roof missing, you know that there is going to be not much left. Once the roof comes off a building, there's nothing to protect it. The home becomes vulnerable to the winds, to the water damage, and we saw so much in your video, Walt, of homes that are just missing their roofs.
Absolutely. This is another mobile home park, and I know we're having a signal problem, but just by the audio, again, the aluminum sections of the roof everywhere. Palm trees tossed, power poles bent to one side, wires down, just nothing but total destruction for the...
And while we let Walt get that, we get that signal in a little bit stronger there, and we look at video again of the airport there in Charlotte County. Let me just toss a couple of these bits of information out again for those of you who are just joining us to give you an idea of the scope of this. There are 3 hospitals in Charlotte County that are quote out of service. They've been badly damaged, so 3 of the hospitals they depend on, they cannot depend on at this hour. Even the Office of Emergency Services there in Charlotte County is also out of commission. 2 shelters where people sought shelter were damaged as well. The Sheriff's Office, we are told the word is destroyed, and 7 fire stations as well, also damaged. So, you know, what we're talking about here, again, is not just the damage to the residents, it is also a real big hit to the very agencies that have to, at this point, that they have to respond to this emergency. So it is really, really causing some major, major problems here. Boy, I'll tell you, do we have Walt back at this point? Walt, are you back with us? Okay, we're still trying to get his
I'm here.
Okay, there you are. Yeah. Are you feeding more video back at this point? Do we have a better signal here to shift back?
Okay, yeah, I'm rolling right now. This is another coming back. That's from the videotape we shot of a I would guess, a clubhouse area of the mobile homes where the homeowners meet. There's the pool with debris from the all the stuff that's fallen inside. Again, as we just pan, no matter which way we go, you see destruction.
You know, Walt, the governor took a tour of the area, much like you're doing right now, and we're waiting to hear from him and what to expect. He's at Charlotte County Emergency Operations Center, and he was doing exactly what you're doing just a little while ago. He was up in a helicopter, flying over, looking at the big picture of what he is up against. Right now, $1 billion is the damage estimate with a B, $1 billion for the entire state, because so much of the state took a hit from Charley. It was just, there's that word again, unmerciful.
I have a feeling that's going to be conservative. I mean, I'm no expert, but just in looking at how these things have played out in the past, and Walt, I will tell you, I know you didn't see him, but if you could have seen the face of the governor, you could have put the tone of your voice on his face. I think he felt the same thing that you're feeling.
I mean, you get depressed because of all they placed there over the years living here, and now just destroyed.
Now, and not only what we're looking at for the moment that needs to be repaired, but think of the consequences long term here about people not being able to go to work, businesses not being able to open. The economic consequences of Charley probably haven't even begun to be tallied, and that's going to be a long-term issue for so many people to impact, you know, our area of the state may be impacted by it as well. I mean, this is just a serious, serious hit to everyone who lives in the state of Florida.
In these pictures, this is a really hard hit mobile home area here, Walt. Again, Punta Gorda still.
Yes.
Boy, this one that you've come across here really took a horrible hit.
They all have. Here's, well, I think, okay, I'm just trying to focus in on something else. Here's another clubhouse. An air conditioner is inside the pool if you look to the left of the picture.
Yeah, I think I just did see that right there. And
blown off the roof.
You know, an air conditioner, ever tried to lift one? You know,
That's right.
I mean, you get a good indication about how strong these winds are. And as
we
you're
are just about out of videotape right now, so I'm going to go, in fact, we are out of videotape. If you want to go back to you guys, it's, well, this is the debris I shot before we were heading into Venice Airport to get fuel. You can see from the mobile homes on the right side across the canal onto the ground there.
Well, Walt, a terrific job in a difficult situation, because you have certainly painted the picture for all of us as to what the southwestern part of our state is dealing with as this Saturday has dawned here, as this new day is underway. Boy, where do you begin to start counting the damage? Where do you begin to start getting an idea of what these people are going to be up against?
And boy, how many people are asking that exact question right now as they look at their home and their little corner of the world.
And Walt, since you said you were out of video at this point, is this the end of the tape right now?
Yeah, I believe this is coming to the end of the tape. I shot about there it is. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I don't know if their material that they've paid for is damaged. I can't get to my back warehouse. I just don't know what I'm gonna do. This is just it's way beyond anything I just couldn't comprehend it when I pulled up. It just didn't look like my store, you know? It's like 18 years of building this business. It's just gone. But we're building a new store, and I don't know what that one looks like yet. I haven't been down there. Anyway, I don't know what else to say other than...
What are you gonna do now? I mean, just clean up, try to...
I'm gonna try and take care of my customers. I'm trying to get my computers for my files. There's one room dry, and that's where most of the important stuff was for my customers.
Did you try to prepare for the storm at all?
God. Yeah, we taped up our windows and sandbagged the back and put the computers up on the desks, which is the only reason that I think 2 out of 4 aren't ruined. So
what is your name?
We're getting those. Marjorie Benson.
Benson, and it's Mohawk?
Well, my floor is Friendly Floors, but I'm a Mohawk Color Center dealer.
And you were in business for 18 years.
Yeah.
And where did you ride out the storm?
I live in Harbor Heights on the water. So I sat in a bathroom with the glass blowing in, and my dog's under a big comforter with me.
At least you're safe.
Yes, thank God for that. And my husband's a paramedic, and he talked to him last night. He's safe, so just hoping he's still safe, because I don't know when he's coming home.
How would you describe this?
Probably a little bit shy of Andrew. I mean, not nowhere near as intense as Andrew was, but that's all I can really say.
I'll never go through this again, quite frankly. Everybody said it was going to hit Tampa, so we just kind of figured, well, let's hunker down and see what's going to happen. Then in the last few hours, it started to turn, and we just kind of hid in the closet, my wife and my son, and kind of barricaded. The house shook. I'm a rental, but still, I lost everything. I have no homeowners. I just wasn't prepared for it. I'll never go through this again.
You're planning on moving?
Well, I'm going to stay in South Florida,
Okay.
you know, but I think this is a good wake-up.
He said, I just wasn't prepared for it.
What we're looking at right here is search and rescue video. These are people literally going door to door to find out if anyone who did not heed an evacuation order is in there, unable to answer for whatever reason.
Let's go live to Judy Chavez, who is in Punta Gorda. And Judy, we just, again, shared with everyone for the first time the video of Marjorie Benson. The couple things that really stuck out in my head that she said is that as she looked at all that damage, that's a business that she's been building up for 18 years. That's just heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking and sad, yes, Mark. I mean, that video that you saw was from
Port Charley rather, which is just a little bit in that direction, north, south. I don't even know where we are right now. It's kind of
okay.
Crazy.
Judy,
but
watching soap operas too much.
I'll tell you, with very little sleep, it's very hard to tell what direction you're in. But it was sad talking to her, and I think, like for most people, her words speak a million emotions, sadness, shock. There's just a lot of beginning pieces that need to be picked up here, and as I have said to you a couple times, I mean, you can't even comprehend this storm would have done so much damage like that and leave behind its wrath of destruction. So
Judy,
yes, Marjorie Benson.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I want to get your impressions. Did you get the sense that the people you're talking to who were gracious enough to stop what they're doing and talk with us, did you get the sense they just don't even feel it yet, that they're just numb because of the enormity of what they face?
Numbness, yeah. I think like when Hurricane Andrew struck in South Florida, people like ourselves were just in shock and numb that a storm like that could take down entire towns and homes and neighborhoods, and that's what's going on here. You know, again, her place was completely destroyed, but next door the structure seemed to continue to stand up. So that's it. You know, the winds, some of it took down other places. The winds then left some places standing. I mean, so she is now having to rebuild. The other people I talked to, I don't know if you saw that racetrack gas station, but that gas station had the wooden plywood panels on the windows, and the structure was standing, but the gas station itself, the rooftop of where the gas pumps were, that was just ripped up like pieces of aluminum, you know, and just toppled over and thrown to the ground.
Hey, Judy, just want to mention here, you talked about other things that you've shot. We do have more of your video. Why don't we go to that right now, and we'll see more of what you shot as you went into some of these areas.
Not too long ago, he came back. Well, he came over earlier this morning before I got back.
I mean, obviously, this is your home, and it's been destroyed.
Yes.
Your feelings.
Yes.
You know, we figured there would be some flooding in here because we'd seen flooding in here before. This is a low-lying area, but we weren't expecting the winds. I don't think nobody was.
Did you believe the storm would do this?
Well, yeah, I have seen storms that did.
Yeah, but we didn't realize it was
We've never been in them, but
you didn't realize Charlie was going to do this?
no, not this bad. I thought, you know, I figured he would get bad, but not this bad.
You know, I mean, this is bad, but look at these around here. It must have just came down. Come down there. But I hope everybody's all right. Yeah, it's rough.
Well, Judy, there was the couple and then that elderly gentleman that you interviewed at that trailer park. There's